When you were a child, what did you look forward to? For me, when I was a child, I looked forward to playing tag with my friends at school until I was red in the face and unbelievably sweaty. When I was a child, I looked forward to going over to a friend's house so we could play dress up or make believe or some other childhood game. When I was a child, having fun was my main goal. In hindsight, I'm extremely grateful to not have had bigger worries, but at the time, it made perfect sense to my child self. Having fun is what makes me happy, so why shouldn't I prioritize having fun? While it wasn't the only thing I looked forward to, the memories I made from having fun had the most lasting impacts. As I got older, I began focusing more on my studies, university choices, possible career paths. Naturally, I started thinking about more grown up things, which I'm sure everyone can relate to, right? It isn't a bad thing that my ambitions changed. After all, I don't know how well I'd be faring if I were still pursuing my childhood dream of becoming a princess. However, I did pinpoint one specific problem with my current way of life. You see, over the summer, I was faced with a choice, the life threatening choice of what book to read first. There was a nonfiction book about a psychological case study, or a children's fantasy book aimed at kids literally half my age. I'd like you all to take a moment to consider which one I might have picked. Now, for the big reveal, I chose the children's fantasy book. I read the whole thing in one go, and I found it engaging, exciting, funny. And after finishing it, I realized just how much fun I'd had by reading it. Don't worry, being the diligent student I am, I still read the psychology book, of course, and I found it extremely interesting. But one thing stood out to me about this children's book. It made me temporarily forget about all my other worries. Almost like, just for a moment, I was returning to my childhood. So, I want all of you to think, when was the last time you had fun? When were you truly worry-free? Because for me, at the time, I realized I hadn't felt that carefree in quite a while. If you can relate, don't worry, you're not alone. In reality, stress and anxiety are more common than you might think. A UK survey from 2018 by the Mental Health Foundation found that 74% of people felt so stressed that they simply couldn't cope. Because sometimes life simply feels overwhelming, like you have task after task to complete and it never ends. As it turns out, the trick to alleviating this overwhelm isn't to keep on pushing, but rather to pause and take a break every once in a while. A 2009 study in psychosomatic medicine examined what happens when people regularly take part in enjoyable leisure activities. Participants were asked how often over the past month they had engaged in activities they found fun. Researchers then measured their psychological and their physical well-being. To assess mental health, they used mood scales that measured levels of depression, anxiety, and anger. To assess stress, they looked at cortisol, often called the stress hormone, over a 2-day period. They also looked at physical indicators, such as resting blood pressure and body mass index. In other words, they didn't just ask people how they felt. They measured what was happening inside their bodies. The results were fascinating. They found that increased participation in enjoyable leisure activities leads to elevated moods and lowered depression. Their cortisol and blood pressure levels were lower too. And Their participation even correlated with lower BMIs. In summary, taking time to do things you genuinely enjoy improves almost every aspect of your quality of life. Sounds simple, doesn't it? Some might even say obvious. So, why don't more people do it? Why is fun often the first thing we remove from our lives? Why do so many people chase material highs, careers, wealth, grades, rather than emotional fulfillment? I'll take a break when exam season is over. I'll go on vacation when work gets less busy. Why do we deprive ourselves of respite? Why do we trap ourselves in endless cycles of work? Well, there are many reasons for this, but two stand out. The first is workaholism, working excessively to the point where rest feels uncomfortable and productivity becomes an addiction. The second, low self esteem, the feeling that you must do something productive before you deserve to do something you enjoy. Most people never pause to name these patterns, and that precisely is the problem. We cannot change what we refuse to acknowledge. And if we want fuller, healthier lives, we need to start by tackling these issues head on. Being human, of course, we're prone to thinking in circles when something goes wrong, being so caught up in the issue that we often fail to see how to solve it. For some, a single worry can plague their mind 24/7. And with the effects of the pandemic still shaping our lives today, alongside more and more global issues arising almost daily now, it is more important than ever to find ways to mitigate emotional distress. Because when the world feels overwhelming, fun isn't a luxury, it's a lifeline. So, what's actually happening in your brain when you do something fun? Psychologically, doing fun things leads to the release of dopamine and serotonin, essentially the happy chemicals in your brain. These neurotransmitters are associated with reward, motivation, and emotional balance. As a result, you feel more fulfilled, satisfied, and regulated. Similarly, doing fun things focuses your mind on the present. I understand that fun and mindfulness may not be words you immediately associate with each other, but they're actually more interlinked than people think. Let's consider fun as a more impassioned version of mindfulness. Playing a game with your friends, doing a sport you enjoy, captures your full attention. Your mind isn't wandering off to worry about your next deadline. Instead, it's focusing on the task at hand. Having fun is a concept that, as you get older, may sound increasingly trivial, especially in comparison to your responsibilities in work, in school. But that doesn't mean it's any less important. In fact, let's frame it this way. You have a responsibility to yourself to take care of your well-being. Students, you may think that your studies and those top grades should come first, but how are you supposed to concentrate on your exams if you're burnt out? Adults, your next work deadline may be your biggest priority, but will the quality really be up to par if you're sleep deprived? Parents, you might be putting the lives of your children first, but shouldn't you take time for yourselves as well? To put it simply, you can't pour from an empty cup. Some of you may think that your place in society is defined by what you can contribute to it. But the message I'm here to spread is that there's nothing wrong with just being. Your body, your mind are like a house, only better because you don't have to pay rent. So, take care of it and find joy in this opportunity to live. Furthermore, there's no correct definition of fun. I'm not telling you to go skydiving on some random afternoon, although that may sound amazing to some people. To others, though, having fun could mean catching up with a friend over a cup of coffee. To embrace having fun is to create a safe haven for yourself, to shape a place where you can breathe that is tailored to you. It reminds you of the simple joys in life. So, I want all of you, when you go home today, to think of something fun you did from last month, last year, or way back when you were a child. And I want all of you to try and recreate this. It doesn't have to be exact, and it doesn't have to be for long. Regardless of whether you spend 3 minutes or 3 hours doing it, I am confident that it will benefit you in some way. When you do recreate this moment, focus on that lightness in your chest. That feeling is the most powerful tool you have to tackle your problems. The more regulated you are inside, the better you can respond to all the external noise: work, deadlines, global crises, you name it. We cannot choose everything about the future. There will always be uncertainty, pressure, responsibility. But do you know what we do get to choose? We get to choose how we meet it. Burnt out, sleep deprived, disconnected, or grounded, present, and emotionally equipped. The future we choose isn't built through the work we do, the grades we get, or the roles we play. It's built in the moments in which we allow ourselves to laugh and to simply be. This brings me to the message I want to leave with all of you. Choosing fun is not an escape from your future. It's how you prepare for it. Thank you.